Good morning, everyone. My name is Mighty Stream. I'm going to do your August the 14th Spiritual Principle a Day in a Meditation. The title of the meditation, Surrendering Shortcomings. In the seventh step, we take our surrender to a deeper level. What began in step one with an acknowledgement of our addiction now includes an acknowledgement of the shortcomings that go along with our addiction. That comes from the NA Step Working Guide, Step 7, Spiritual Principles. The steps are in order for a reason. Each one prepares us for the next. We acknowledge that our way hasn't worked when we surrender to step one. Some members boil it down to a single acknowledgement. I need something different. This admission opens the door for us to recognize our need for restoration in step two and to make a decision, in step three. With each of these first three steps, we surrender a little more. In exchange, we gain hope and enjoy glimpses of freedom. Surrender takes on new meaning when we get to steps 6 and 7. Sure, we were sick of some shortcomings, but others were still useful. We were rather fond of one or two that we believed defined us. Still, other defects kept us safe. We may even credit some of them with our survival out there. To become entirely ready to release the whole list, we ask ourselves, are they still serving us in our new way of life? What would life be like without them? The answer is always a little freer. With humility, we surrender our shortcomings to a higher power and ask for them to be removed. More than one sponsor has pointed out that the seventh step doesn't go on to say, and we lived happily ever after without them, does it? Instead, this step 7 surrender opens us to guidance and requires us to do some more work. Many of us find that we're more receptive to the suggestions of our sponsor, trusted friends, and our own insights. When we start to feel ourselves reach for a defective reaction, we make an effort to choose a principled response instead. We surrender again and again, deepening our commitment to living by spiritual principles and inviting them to counter our worst instincts. Each time one of my shortcomings seems appealing, that's when I can practice surrender. The gifts of surrender are available to me each day. Let's take a moment of silence followed by the we version of the Serenity Prayer. Moment of silence now, please. Thank you. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference just for today. Please and thank you. What a wonderful meditation, surrendering shortcomings. And I know for most of you, and I know for myself for sure, that surrendering my shortcomings was more mental. It took some action too, but it was more mental. It was a process of me being able to say, God, I don't want these anymore. I'm entirely ready to have these removed from me. And slowly but surely, what began to happen was situations would come up, and immediately I would be aware of how I would normally or typically handle a situation. It would tap into the character defect just a little bit. And I would be aware that, you know what? There was a day and a time that you would have done thus and so. But when you say that you are entirely ready to have these character defects removed, and you humbly ask God to remove your shortcomings, there's something in you that naturally wants to work co-partner in a sense with the God of your understanding to not act in a certain way. Maybe not for everyone. It took me a while to even get to this step 7. It took me a long time to get to it. But by the time I got to it, by the time I got to it, my amends list, if I was to project, my amends list, my step 8 was going to be so long, and it would just have people in recovery on it. I'm not even talking about the list before I got into recovery. Well, before I got into Narcotics Anonymous, because I didn't start recovering for a long time. So by the time I got to this particular step, I had done so much harm to individuals with my character defects and the way they would cause me to fall short. I had done so much harm. I was ready. And I knew that I could make a different decision. I could wait it out. I could wait the emotion out. I can wait out the instinct to behave a certain way. I could believe in faith that my prayer was going to be answered and that I was going to have these shortcomings removed from me. But here's the thing. I am the one that initiated that process. I am the one that became entirely ready. I am the one that humbly asked God to remove. It starts with you. And it will always start with you. Don't be afraid to live differently. If you're thinking about cheating, if you're thinking about lying, if you're thinking about being trivial and petty and starting arguments, if you're thinking about not showing up at work, if you're thinking about not paying your rent this month, if you're thinking about not being financially responsible in some sort of way, if you're thinking about any of those things, thinking about them is not necessarily the problem. Doing them. So let's not do them. Let's keep praying that those shortcomings are removed from us. And continue to seek God to help you change the way that you think. People think things all the time and they don't do them. And it doesn't mean that the thought is not bothersome. And there is a solution for dealing with these negative automatic thoughts that we have. But just for today, let's work on surrendering our shortcomings in the true sense. My name is Mighty Stream. I've enjoyed talking to you today. Have a beautiful day on purpose.